So he came back for a little bit more like Canine bitch sleep. Well, right on. Gatsmeyer just done stone cold busted me in the middle of a lie. I was telling about what had happened the previous night. And now instead of Gatsmeyer looking like the jackass, old Canine looked like the jackass, and everybody was getting a real laugh out of that. Ha ha. I went ahead and took my humility and walked back upstairs to my room and laid down for a while. The rest of the day pretty uneventful. Next day we found out that we could go back to the Job Corps, so they were loading buses. Of course, you know, my slowness, I went ahead and was packing slow, being last, waiting on that last bus. Get downstairs, hit the door, and pow, there she is standing there. I'm like, hey, Destiny, what's up? She goes, well, I've been waiting on you. I was like, is that right? Sweet potatoes. I said, well, we just grabbed this bus. Walk outside, get on the bus, head straight to the back. You know where the cool kids sit. At least back in the day, that's where we sat. So I'm sitting there with her, and she says, so why don't you tell me about these long-distance relationships? I said, well, Canine don't know anything about no long-distance relationships because he's never been in one. She says, well, the other night you were acting like you knew that that was not a good idea and love the one you're with and all that. And I was like, well, exactly. The reason long-distance relationships usually don't work is because you're with somebody else. See where I'm going with that? She says, yeah, but I'm not, and that's what he won't understand. And I said, well, that's because he's a guy, and he might be trying to be with who he's with. See there? Hate to be the bearer of bad news. Just telling you how guys are. She says, do you really think that? And I said, oh, wow, what I think and what you believe could be way off base. I wouldn't go by what Canine's saying. You're asking for some advice and opinion, and that's all Canine's giving you. She says, okay, so why are you chasing after me so bad? And I said, that's the exact reason I am chasing after you so bad. He's like, everybody tells me here, you don't date jobbies. You got a boyfriend back home that you're true to, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. I know that sounds a little old-fashioned, but one-on-one, that's what Canine likes, so that's why I chase after you so bad. She got a little blush on her face and smiled a little bit, looked up at me, and she says, yeah, but I'm still committed to this guy Rick back home. And I was like, well, I can respect that. I'm just, you know, we could just be friends. So we talked the rest of the way back, you know, to the Job Corps and get off the bus. And she went to the girls' dorm. I went over to the animal house as usual, you know, roll up in there. Genghis and everybody's talking about, so what was y'all talking about at the back of the bus? I was like, you know, just this and that, you know, just being friends, you know, just like I'd be talking to you guys. And they're like, oh, is that right? Just some talk. And I was like, yep, just some talk. And he's like, so you ain't getting nowhere with that. And I was like, not at the moment. You got me tied up on that big gang. Come on. And he says, well, I could have told you that. Saved you a lot of time. I said, well, you know, Canine got to take the hard road. There ain't no road but the hard road for me, baby. He's like, yeah, you getting ready to find out how hard it is. I was like, yeah, right on. He says, well, I'm going to tell you what, tomorrow when we go back to work, I got a little something special planned out for you. I was like, is that right? He said, that's right, because we're going to initiate you in down there at the Plasters. I was like, oh, man, dude, how many initiations you guys got up at this bad boy? He's like, oh, no, it ain't nothing like the last one, man. It's just a little trick that we like to play on the instructor when the new guys come in so that it keeps him on his toes. I was like, man, why you want to mess with that old man? Was he like 100 years old? And they're like, well, that's why we like to mess with him, but he loves it too. It's a little game that we like to play. He plays along with it. And I was like, okay, Canine's into it then. We can do that. Right on. So I went ahead and went back over to my bunk, you know, laid down for a little while, got back up about chow time, headed down the chow line. Snowy as hell. It's everywhere. It's not snowing, just snow everywhere. Let me tell you, it's still up to your hip. Didn't like that. Rolled down there, got me some grub, sitting at the table. Pow, here she comes again. I was like, you got to be kidding me. She says, can I sit down? I said, sit down, Destiny, please do. I said, what's on your mind today? She said, well, I broke up with Rick. And I was like, is that right? She goes, that is correct. I said, well, let me tell you something. She goes, what's that? I said, turn the page.